My name is Souzana Naqvi and I come from former Czechoslovakia. I was raised as an atheist. My mom and my dad were not religious people. My mom, she was an atheist. My dad was baptized Catholic, but he was never practicing. He never talked about God. And also my whole environment was atheist. When I was growing up, my country was under communist rule, and it suppressed religion. So religious beliefs were not taught at school. So when I was growing up, and I grew up with the belief that there was no God. But as a child, I felt quite sad and empty, because I longed to have some supreme being who could, look after us or protect us, and to whom we could pray. But when I was growing up, I probably lost the connection with God because of all the influence, around me. So I stopped praying, and I was basically living life without God. Although I used to think about, death and when we die, what will happen, and I was terrified about that when we die there is nothing. It's just kind of everything is dark, blank, and it will go for eternity. We die, and that's the end of it. And also I used to think about how all life started, and it just, it was just so funny to think that it just started like, that without anything. So, I used to think about, how life started, or, what will happen when we die. Then later on, when I left my studies, I started working in a company which was led by Muslims. The boss was Muslim, and the senior staff were Muslims. Before that, I didn't, I was not interested in Islam. I heard bad things about Islam. I heard that Islam, doesn't respect women, that they are inferior, beings to men. That Islam, has to be spread by sword as a jihad. I read the book called Not Without My Daughter. So I felt quite negative towards Islam as well. So when I started working in that company, I was a bit, wary of these people, because I thought they will be really harsh and, tough, and, they might hurt me, sometime. So it was very surprising, and it was a pleasant surprise that they were completely, the opposite of what I had heard before. They were respectful, and it was real respect, because sometimes men have bad motives behind their respect. When they, speak nicely to women, they think, about other things. But these people were genuinely, respectful, because they were respectful and kind, but they kept their distance. And I really, appreciated it, and I liked it. We used to talk about, life and religion in the company when there was nothing to do, and it was really nice, very relaxing kind of atmosphere. I remember one of the colleagues once gave me his money to buy some food, because at one point I was broke and I didn't have enough money to buy food, and he was really concerned about my health, and he said, here you have money and you have to buy things, you have to buy enough food for you, you can't be starving. So all these things showed Muslims in completely different light than what I had known previously, and I started feeling inclined towards them, not necessarily to the religion itself yet, but I was on the way. Basically the way was open to me, that whatever they told me about Islam, I was accepting it. I mean, they were Muslims, so if I ask them about their religion, then they should know it better than what I was told by non-Muslims. I read some books about Islam written by non-Muslims, or we were taught things about Islam by non-Muslims. So, I mean, I would go to the source if I want to know the religion, and I had the source, I had these people. So I could ask them questions. I used to ask them about, jihad. I said, you people, you believe in jihad, you believe that you have to spread Islam with sword. And they said, no, that's not true. We don't believe in that. Jihad is a, struggle, and we are allowed to protect ourselves, but this is just for protection. That we are not allowed to spread Islam with sword. It doesn't make sense. You can't force someone to accept, belief. I used to ask them about, women rights and, handshaking. And I mean, they said, we don't shake hands with, basically with, opposite sex don't shake hands with each other because to maintain, modesty. And it has nothing to do with someone being superior or someone being inferior. And that makes sense to me as well. I mean, you get the right explanation, then, this makes sense. Later on, I married one of my colleagues, and my experience with Islam and with Muslims continued, and this time it was as a wife of a Muslim. So I had, the good opportunity to, learn how it is to be wife of a Muslim, basically. And he continued to be respectful, kind, polite, caring, helpful. So later on I decided to accept Islam because all the, evidences were for me that the Islam is true religion for me. And so I decided to learn more, myself about what Islam is. First, I used to ask my husband, and also we used to go to my boss. He is quite knowledgeable man. Sometimes when my husband didn't know the answer, he said, put your questions down, and we will go and you can ask the boss. So that's what we used to do. So we used to go to his house, and he used to answer my questions. Then these were mainly before, I converted, and there was something after I converted as well. But then we got internet, and I started reading, myself, and I researching myself about Islam. I was interested. First of all, it was women's rights, because I had heard lots of bad things, and I needed to clarify, these claims. Then later on, I wanted to know more about Islamic personalities. So I searched about Prophet Muhammad and about Imam Ali, alayhi salam. My husband, he used to talk about these personalities a lot, and I wanted to increase my knowledge about these people. And I stumbled across a website called alislam.org, and it proved to be very good source of information, because even now, if I want something, I still refer back to this website, because I can find anything I want about any subject I want. So I remember first book which I read there. It was amazing what I learned about the laws of inheritance, for instance, that why woman inherits half of what the man. It's not something she's lower. Again, because it's her own property. She can spend it however she wants, whereas the man has to provide for his family from the money. That's why woman has a half of it. And I thought half is still a lot if we can keep it just for ourselves. And other things, I was really amazed. And I remember reading about slavery, because I was taught by someone that Islam promotes slavery. So I read a book about slavery. And I read about how the Prophet and how his family treated slaves. And I started crying, because I realized that these people treated slaves better than we treat our children. So it's a great lesson for us, even to learn how they treated slaves, and we can learn how to treat our own kids. I mean, these people were, and the slaves were the lowest class of the society, basically. But the family of the Prophet, they treated them, they didn't make any difference if someone is a slave or if someone is a is a rich person, they treated people equally. Whatever, we want to know how we should, deal with people on a daily basis, we will learn the best example from them. I mean, they, even with their enemies, they were very kind. I recall a story about Imam Hassan, alayhi salam, when somebody from Syria came and he started abusing him. And Imam Hassan, he knew that in Syria there is a propaganda against the family of the Holy Prophet. So he instead of getting angry and saying, what are you talking about? You do not know who I am. He said, it seems like you are a stranger here in this town. If you have nowhere to stay, come and I'll give you shelter. If you have nothing to eat, I'll give you food. He invited him to his house, and he was so kind to him that the person completely changed his attitude. Or when Imam Ali alayhi salam was killed in the mosque of Kufa, when he was struck by the poison sword, when he saw that the people tied the murderer and the ropes were were cutting into his flesh, Imam Ali, he was in pain, he was in agony, but he said, what are you doing? You're injuring him. You can't do that. Loosen the rope so it doesn't cut into his flesh, and look after him, give him food and give him plenty of drink, and don't do anything to him while I'm alive. So he was concerned about his murderer's well-being, although he was basically he was injured, fatally injured, and he didn't care about himself but his own murderer. So it's when I was reading these things, I said, these people are the best people to follow, and they can teach us a lot of things. And these examples are not only for the for the past, but for the present. Everyone can learn lessons from from these people. I mean, with regards to Lady Khadija, we can learn a lot about about the role and the position of women in Islam, because I mean, in the beginning, when I was learning about Islam, it was one of the aspects which led me to accept Islam was the position of the ladies, the great ladies of Islam and their lives. Lady Khadija, she was a rich merchant lady, but she was not spoiled. She was God-fearing, and she used her wealth for Islam. Islam basically survived because of her wealth. She financed the first hijrah to Abyssinia, and also she helped the Muslims to survive when they were banished from Mecca for, I think, 3 years, when Meccans basically made a boycott against Muslims, against the Prophet. So she used all her wealth for the sake of Islam and to save Islam and for other people. So I mean, it is a great example for us to follow. That whatever we have, and we have to share with other people, and also it shows us that we can, as ladies, we can do business as well. We don't have to basically sit at home and behind closed doors, as some people might have the impression, and some Muslims even think that women belong behind the basically the wall. They belong in the house and they are not supposed to go out. So this is wrong. We can see it in Lady Khadija's example, that she was very basically into society. Yeah, as ladies, we who wear hijab, we sometimes face difficulties Sometimes people, don't respect us because we wear hijab, or, they can make it difficult for us. Even, in our families, people might oppose us, or, we might not find a job or things like that. But I mean, Lady Zainab, she, I think her example gives us strength, because I mean, not everybody goes through what she went through, but she remained calm and composed and dignified, and that's what I can learn myself from her life. People who know a little about Ahlul Bayt, they love them. I've heard about Sikhs in India. They take part in the Ashura processions, or Hindus as well. Once I met someone at school. I think they are Hindus, and he started reciting Qawwali about Imam Ali, like like a Sufi song, basically Indian. I think it was in Punjabi, and I was quite surprised. And said, we know Imam Ali. He was, that Qawwali, I can't say it in Punjabi, but it means, Imam Ali is the first. He is the number one. And, it was really nice. So he knew a little bit of the history. So whoever knows about Ahlul Bayt, they will love them. If they have a little bit of heart, they will love them. So, and they can inspire people, not only Muslims, but Christians, Jews, Hindus. I heard on one majlis, I heard about one Sikh attending the majalis, and when all people left the majlis, he stayed there and he kept crying, and he was not a Muslim. So they are definitely for the whole world, not just for Muslims. So I mean, we must make sure that people know these personalities, so they can take some lessons from their lives, and inshallah brighten their lives, because the teaching, I can say that the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they brightened my life. Definitely, they gave my life some goal